Have you ever noticed that little voice in your head? The one that's constantly deciding whether to keep paying attention or maybe just switch over to something a little more fun? Well, that's the battle for your focus, happening in real time. Today, we are going to dive deep into the science of your brain's motivation engine and, more importantly, how you can take back the controls. You know, we live in a world with a really strange paradox. We have more entertainment, more connection, more stimulation at our fingertips than any other time in history. And yet, so many of us feel completely drained, distracted, and unmotivated. It all starts with something you've probably felt yourself. I mean, think about it. It's almost effortless to get lost in social media or a video game for hours on end, right? But sitting down to study for just 30 minutes, it can feel like climbing a mountain. Logically, we all know that studying or working on that project will pay off way more in the long run, but our brain still screams for the easy path. So why does this happen? To figure that out, we need to meet the chemical that's pulling all the strings. Okay, let's talk about dopamine. It is the absolute key player in this entire story, and it's probably one of the most misunderstood chemicals in our brain. And its power to drive our behavior, well, it's almost unbelievable. This brings us to a pretty famous and kind of wild experiment. Scientists put electrodes in rats' brains that gave them a little jolt of reward system stimulation whenever they pulled a lever. And the result? The rats got so hooked on that feeling, they just kept pulling the lever. They ignored food, water, even sleep. They just kept pressing it over and over until they literally collapsed from exhaustion. That, right there, is the raw, primal power of dopamine. So here is the absolute most crucial thing to understand. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. It's the wanting chemical. It's the molecule of motivation. It gets released when you anticipate you're about to get a reward, not when you actually get it. That spike of anticipation is what pushes you, what drives you to get up and do things. Whether that's grabbing food or checking that little red notification on your phone, your brain is constantly chasing that next potential hit. And here's where the problem comes in. Our modern world has basically learned how to hack this system. Every app, every snack, every notification is engineered to hijack that wanting system. And it's creating a trap that's just draining our natural drive to do hard things. To really get this, we need to talk about a core biological rule: homeostasis. Basically, your body is always trying to keep everything in balance. Just think about it like alcohol tolerance, right? Someone who drinks regularly needs more and more to get the same effect. Well, your brain does the exact same thing with dopamine. So what actually happens? When your brain gets flooded with these crazy high levels of dopamine from things like video games or junk food, it freaks out and tries to get back to baseline. And it does this by literally pulling dopamine receptors away from your neurons, making them less sensitive. This is called downregulation. And the result? You end up with a tolerant brain, a brain that needs way more stimulation just to feel anything. And suddenly, normal life, with its normal subtle rewards, it just starts to feel boring. Okay, so that sounds a little bleak, I know. But this leads us to the big question. Can we fix this? Can we actually reverse it? How do we reset our brain's reward system so that normal, productive work starts to feel exciting again? Well, the answer is something people call a dopamine detox. But wait a second. We can't just get rid of dopamine, right? It's essential for, being a functioning human. So if detoxing isn't about eliminating it, what are we really trying to do here? How do you fix a brain that's just numb to everyday life? And here is the biggest myth about this whole idea. The goal is not to reduce dopamine. The real goal is to resensitize your dopamine receptors. It's about turning down the volume on all that artificial, high-intensity noise so that your brain can start to hear the music of normal life again. You don't have to go live in a cave and become a monk. You just need to be a little more intentional about what you let in. The basic method is actually way simpler than it sounds. You just set aside a period of time. It could even just be one day to start, and you intentionally cut out all your usual high dopamine habits. No social media, no video games, no junk food. The real goal here is to just let yourself be bored. That boredom is what gives your dopamine receptors a chance to breathe, to recover, and to reset your baseline for what feels good. This quote just nails it perfectly. The whole thing works because when you get bored enough, boring stuff actually becomes interesting again. It's like that deserted island analogy. If you're used to eating gourmet meals every day, a bowl of plain rice is nothing. But if you're starving, That bowl of rice is the most incredible meal you've ever had. Boredom literally recalibrates your sense of reward. Okay, so a full day detox can be pretty intense, let's be real. So how can we build this same principle into our daily lives? Let's get into some practical strategies you can use to make that hard, productive work feel genuinely rewarding again. First up is phone fasting. This one is huge. When you wake up, your brain is looking for a dopamine hit to get the day started. If the very first thing you do is grab your phone, you're just flooding it with cheap, easy dopamine, and you've got nowhere to go but down. So try this. For the first hour of your day and the last hour before you go to sleep, just don't touch your phone. Let your brain reset. All right, this next one is going to sound completely backwards, but trust me on this. Take boring breaks. What do most of us do when we take a break from work? We grab our phone, right? We do something more stimulating. And that makes going back to work feel like a punishment. Instead, do something less stimulating. Seriously, stare at a wall for 5 minutes. Go for a walk with no headphones. Just stretch. You'll starve your brain just enough that it will actually look forward to getting back to your work. Now get this. What if I told you there's a way to get a massive dopamine boost that actually lasts for hours and is good for you? Turns out, something like cold water immersion, yep, a cold shower, can increase your dopamine levels by 250%. But unlike the quick spike and crash you get from a cookie, this increase is slow, it's gradual, and it lasts for hours. It works because of something called the pain-pleasure balance. By embracing a little bit of effort up front, your brain rewards you with a much more powerful and sustainable sense of motivation. This last strategy is all about flipping the script. You can still enjoy your vices, but you have to use them as rewards. The key here is do the hard work first. Get that project done. Finish that chapter. And then, at the end of the day, reward yourself with a specific limited amount of that high dopamine thing, like 15 minutes of scrolling. This trains your brain to associate effort with reward, and over time, it will start to crave the effort itself. Ultimately, what this all comes down to is a really crucial choice, the choice between pleasure and satisfaction. Pleasure is immediate, it's fleeting, it comes from the outside, and it takes no effort. Satisfaction, that's delayed, it's lasting, it comes from inside you, and it requires effort. Our world is constantly trying to sell us cheap pleasure, but it leaves us feeling empty. The real goal here is to shift your focus away from chasing pleasure and toward building a life of earned satisfaction. So in the end, we're all driven by dopamine. We're all addicts, in a way. The real choice isn't if we're going to be driven by something, it's what we choose to be driven by. Are you going to let your brain get addicted to the easy, hollow dopamine of endless distraction? Or are you going to retrain it and get it addicted to the deep, lasting satisfaction that comes from achieving your goals? The choice is entirely up to you.